Good evening and welcome to Current Issues. I'm your host, Hesham Tillawi. Welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we will be discussing few items that have been on the news lately in the last couple of days. But actually we're going to talk about three different things and link all of them together. Number one, a couple of weeks ago, you have heard about the Annapolis Peace Conference that took place in Annapolis, and which was an attempt by the Bush administration to have some positive credit to its name that it did something of value. But then, two things happened since then, and those two things happened in the same week. Number one, we had the Gulf Cooperation Council. This is a council made up of 6 Gulf states, and Gulf states that is not here, but the Gulf areas in the Persian Gulf or the Arabic Gulf or the Arabian Gulf, whichever one you would like to call it. It's between like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, and Oman, the state of Oman. And they very much, all of these people, all of these states are very much allies of the United States, or puppets, whichever one you would like to call it too. But something happened. They had their meeting, they had their summit in Doha, Qatar, and they invited the Iranian president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, to the meeting. This was the first time in the history of the council, the Arab Council or the Gulf Cooperation Council, that an Iranian president actually addresses the council, the meeting, the summit. So keep that in mind, that the Gulf Cooperating Councils, these countries, these states, have actually invited Ahmadinejad to speak, the president of Iran, to speak. And he did. And he did a very good job. Also, we have the latest thing that came out a couple of days ago, the National Intelligence Estimate, known as NIE. It's a report by our own intelligence agencies that very much says that Iran does not have weapons, nuclear weapons. It is not working on nuclear weapons. They stopped pursuing that program back in 2003. You ask yourself, why is this report? Why is this report out now by our own intelligence services, and what does it mean? What it means, ladies and gentlemen, is, I'll tell you what, we will continue with this, but I'm going to go ahead and take this call, and then we'll continue with this, because I'm sure Freedom has something to say about this, and then we will continue. I want you to understand what is happening. This is something that we have been talking about for a long time. I was probably one of the few commentators, analysts in the United States that had always maintained that we will not go to war against Iran. It was all a show. It was all something that they wanted to accomplish something else by this show of force. And we're going to go in details and tell you what my theory was, which I have spoken about this on this show, of why this whole thing with Iran was taking place, and why now somebody pulled the rug from underneath the White House, Israel, and the neocons, because that's exactly what happened. We're going to go in details, but let's go to Freedom. Go ahead, Freedom.
Oh, yes, Dr. Tillawi.
Yes, sir.
When you speak about that National Intelligence Report,
Estimate,
of the
yes.
16 intelligence agencies, and they came back, and of course, they spoke to the president in August.
Right.
But the president said that in August, they didn't tell him the particulars about the report. And then he made the speech, as you recall, about World War III, okay, which caused speculators on the commodities market to speculate so high that oil went up to $98 a barrel because of that World War III prediction. Now, the president apparently, according to the news and according to my connections in D.C. that I spoke to today, was lying because of the fact the intelligence agencies did tell him that Iran had stopped their quest for nuclear weapons in 2003, because Iran was also our ally, as you remember, when we went into Afghanistan. So could you please explain why Bush and Cheney would lie to the American people again, just like they did when they talked about the smoking gun would become a mushroom cloud? Could you please explain that to us? And thanks.
Thank you. You just answered yourself, Freedom. You just answered yourself. Why did they lie about the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq when they actually knew that it was a lie? Our intelligence services back then knew that Iraq, with a Q, did not have weapons of mass destruction. But yet, our intelligence services did go along with what the neocons wanted them to go. George Tenet sat right behind, and we have a picture. Let's throw a Colin Powell's picture on the screen. George Tenet sat behind Colin Powell when he went to the United Nations trying to explain to the world the mobile labs, and they showed a picture of these mobile labs too, that the Iraqis were working on. The weapons of mass destruction, the chemical and biological weapons mobile labs that they had showed. Our intelligence services at that time knew. Our intelligence services, the same agencies that had given this estimate a couple of days ago, they knew back in 2005 that Iran did not have any weapons of mass destruction or nuclear weapons programs, but yet in 2005 their report said that they had it, and they are working on a weapons program. In 2007, 2 years later, they come back and say, you know what, they don't have it since 2003. Let's go back. Let's go back and answer Freedom question. You're going to have to watch for the whole hour to get the answer for that question. And this is exactly what this program tonight is all about. Let's go back to why Iraq had to be destroyed. The main reason, and we proved on this show, the main reason was Israel. And we had proven to you that Israel had, back in 1982, a paper out, a strategy paper called Strategy for Israel in the 1980s. And it had taken Iraq and said we need to remove Saddam Hussein and divide Iraq into 3 or more states. That is happening right now as we speak. That was the objective of the Iraqi war. It was not the oil, even though oil does play a part in it, but the main thing was, because we could have worked with Saddam to get the oil. We were getting his oil anyhow. Saddam was one of our allies. We could have kept Saddam in power and got the oil from him big time. After we threatened him, before we invaded, we could have gotten anything we wanted from Saddam. We could have put the American oil corporations, all of them there, to get free oil, and Saddam would have let us do it. But that wasn't. The issue was to divide Iraq, destroy the Saddam regime, divide Iraq for Israel. Now, let's come back and see what is happening with Iran. If you noticed that Iran actually... Are we having problems with the graphics, or can we put graphics? Go ahead and put the picture of Dick Cheney visiting Saudi Arabia and sitting with the king there. Now, what happened, ladies and gentlemen? We wanted to get Israel to be. We wanted to get the Arab countries to normalize relationships with Israel. The only way we could accomplish that is if we actually get an enemy that would be an enemy for the Israelis and the Arabs at the same time. Now, this here is Dick Cheney visiting Saudi Arabia and asking them to form an alliance to be in the same camp with Israel. And then the next day, President Bush was in Amman, Jordan, visiting with King Abdullah of Jordan. And President Bush, very much had the same message for the Jordanian king. This is actually Cheney and in Saudi Arabia. And now we'll show you President Bush in Amman, Jordan, at the same time when Cheney was in Saudi Arabia, and they asked the Jordanians, they asked the Egyptians, they asked what they call the modern or the moderate Arab countries, which is very much the puppets that the United States have in the Middle East, to form an alliance with Israel against Iran. The whole thing with Iran, ladies and gentlemen, was to form that alliance. That's it. We did not want to attack Iran because attacking Iran would not have been in our interest. We accomplished the first objective of dividing Iraq. That took place. But the other objective failed. The other objective is once you get rid of Israel's enemies, then you need to normalize relationships with the other countries in the Middle East. Bypass the Palestinians. Create an enemy that everybody can resent. We created this animosity, this fictitious animosity between Iran and Israel. Iran was never an enemy of Israel. You might be surprised because in the last few years all you heard is Iran wants to wipe Israel out of the face of the earth. That's not true. Iran and Israel had good relationships before. You had good relations before the Khomeini regime took over power in Iran. And even after the Khomeini regime took over power, we know about the Nicaraguans and the Iranians and the Israelis when they were the Sandinista. You remember that? Iran Gate? When we were selling guns, Israeli guns to the Iranians, and funneling that money to help the Sandinista, not the Sandinistas, but to help the resistance in Nicaragua. We did that. The reason, so Iran never was an enemy of Israel. Iran will never hit Israel. But let's play this game. How can we play this game? You take one statement that the president of Iran did not say, which is to wipe Israel out of the face of the map. Something that he did not say. Something that he said so many times that I did not say that. Okay? You play that 24 hours a day on American media. At the same time, you take Al Jazeera and you ask Al Jazeera to play this Sunni and Shiite thing. You create animosity between the American people and Iran, between the Arab people and Iran, between very much everybody in the world and Iran, but it did not work. Because a lot of people in the world knew the game. They did not play the game. Russia and China did not play the game. But one thing they succeeded in is that they created animosity big time between the Sunnis and the Shiites. So last year when Cheney went to Saudi Arabia and President Bush went to Amman, Jordan, they wanted to play that card. The card that Iran is going to take over you Sunni countries and you need Israel to protect you. They tried that game. The Arab countries told them, no way on earth that we will do anything with Israel as long as they are killing the Palestinians. Our people will kill us if we go on normalized relationship with Israel in the same camp against another Muslim country just because you're telling us that the Shiites want to kill us Sunnis. We can't do it. They tried. And that was the game. Create an enemy out of Iran that is an enemy of Israel and an enemy of the Arabs. And then you will give Israel a bigger role to play in the Middle East. And then Israel will be a favorite amongst the Arabs. That was the game. It did not work. Because Israel wanted us to attack Iran. Something that was not in our interest. But our neocons government and the pressure that the Israelis and their Zionist thugs in Washington had put on this administration. Number one, to attack Iran, to attack Iraq, they succeeded. They tried to get us to attack Iran so Israel can actually play a much bigger role in that. But if we would have attacked Iran, as we said on this program many, many times, it will be suicidal for our troops in Iraq. And we knew it. I never believed, even with all the rhetoric that was going on in Washington and all over the airwaves and TVs and all these analysts, I was probably the only one who maintained that we will not hit Iran. It can't happen. It is not in our best interest because, number one, even if the Iranians were working on nuclear bomb, it didn't make sense. The reason we would attack Iran, it did not make sense at all. That they are working on a weapons program. Even if they get one bomb, which everybody is saying 5 years, but it was actually 5 years way back in 1991. And they keep saying 5 years. Now our own national intelligence report or estimate saying that they might get one by 2015. Even if they get one, ladies and gentlemen, by 2015, what the heck they are going to do with it when Israel now has 400 nuclear bombs and we have about 15,000 nuclear bombs. So what would Iran do with that one nuclear bomb? That was a game. That was a game to get Israel to be a normal player in the Middle East, and it failed. It failed miserably. Now, there's two things that we can understand from this national intelligence estimate. Two possibilities. Number one, that the intelligence community, which lied to us in the first, before we attacked Iraq, George Tenet and everybody else. This time, probably the intelligence community said, we're not going to do it. We are not going to do it. We are not going to go and after we hit Iran for Israel, so Israel can display this part of defending the Arabs and their honor, so they can be favorites for the Arabs. We're not going to do it for Israel. Forget it. That's a possibility that the intelligence community actually did what George Bush did not want to do. But then, that's of course what a lot of people are saying over on the blogs and analysts on TV and all that stuff, that the intelligence community wanted to do it better this time and tell the people that our estimates on Iran, that they don't have weapons a program for nuclear bombs. My theory is the Bush administration wanted out of this game. They are tired of playing this game because it is not in the Americans' best interest. It is not in our future's best interest. And because we are losing big time the economic war, the dollar, we are losing it big time. Why? Because Chavez, Iran, China, Russia, and a lot of people, a lot of other countries in the world are fighting us, not with weapons, but with the dollar. They are fighting us with the dollar, and they are winning big time. This is a victory for Russia. What happened with this national intelligence estimate is a victory for Russia. It is a victory for China. It is a victory for Iran. The Chinese have played an extremely important role in this. Now, my own theory is this national report, George Bush knew about it back in August. To save face, he wanted to play the democracy game that our intelligence services, our intelligence community came out with this. Now we can't go and attack Iran. Bush himself wanted a way out of this because this is a losing game. A war against Iran is a losing game. They knew it. Our generals knew it. They told the White House it is not going to happen because it will be a disaster. Forget about Israel. And yes, I think we forgot about Israel because now it's our butts. Now it's us. And we told the Israelis, no, we can't do it. But the Bush White House it's too coward to come out and tell the American people that, you know what, we were doing this for Israel and now we're stopping because it will be a suicidal mission on his part. So they had somebody else to do it. They had somebody in the intelligence community coming out with this report to pull the rug from underneath the White House, Israel, and everybody else in this neocon camp. That's my theory. Because no one dares to go awry from within this administration. Especially that George Bush knew about it back in August. He could have sealed this big time. He has done a lot more worse than just sealing an intelligence report. But George Bush, in my theory, came to the realization that I cannot attack Iran for Israel. We did that for Iraq. We destroyed Iraq for Israel. I can't keep doing this for Israel. And that's what happened. This intelligence report pulled the rug from underneath, saved face, because right now George Bush can say, you know what? We can't do it because nobody in the world will go with us. Our own people will not go with us. Imagine if we attacked Iran, ladies and gentlemen, and then we find out after we kill 1 million of them that, you know what? They did not have weapons program. They did not have weapons program. Imagine how would America be at that point. We can't even get out of the first one that we started for Israel. Israel is very upset about this. The Israelis are furious. If you read what the Israelis are doing, are saying now, because of this intelligence report, estimate, they are furious. They are saying the United States abandoned us. No. The United States can't be doing your dirty work for you. The United States can't destroy its own country for you. You need to normalize relationships in the Middle East. Everybody in the Middle East is opening his arms wide for you, Israel, to normalize. But you don't want to normalize because the Arabs all of them came to Annapolis, and they gave you a whole program that will guarantee recognition by every Arab country of Israel. something that they have been saying for a long time. But you played the victim for a long time. This is the end. You've got to become a normal, natural human being and stand up on your own feet. Forget about using other people and other countries and other people to die for you, just like all these Americans that have died for you in Iraq. And you want us to go and hit Iran so more people can die just for you. No, forget it. Get over it. Get on with the program. Become a normal country. Give the Palestinians their right. Help them getting this independent Palestinian state and then live happily ever after. You played this victim role for too long. People don't believe you anymore. And now it's time for the American people to stand up and say, no more wars for Israel. And you know what? The answer came a couple of days ago in this report. Now, do we have the graphics? Can we put some graphics up if we, or are we having a problem with the computer? If we can, let's just go ahead and put some pictures as I call it. So let's show Ahmadinejad with King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia in Qatar. And then after that picture, okay, let me know when it's ready. Okay, all right. All right, graphic computers crashing. Okay, all right. But anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, it's if you let's throw the phone number on the screen and encourage everyone to call if they want to comment on this issue, and we will continue with this. But now, if some of you have not read the National Intelligence Estimate, I'll just read a couple of lines for you. It's a declassified summary of the latest National Intelligence Estimate found with high confidence. Now, high confidence means we're sure of that. With high confidence that the Islamic Republic stopped an effort to develop nuclear weapons in the fall of 2003. So, in the fall of 2003, they stopped doing this. They told us they stopped doing this. The International Atomic Agency told us they don't have a program. They told us they're not working on a weapons program, but we did not believe them. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, a couple of weeks ago, Israel wanted Al-Baradei, who is the top man in the International Atomic Agency, to actually resign. They wanted him to be replaced because he said Iran is within the Non-Proliferation Treaty that was signed in the 1960s, I think 1964, 1965. Now, this is the picture of Ahmadinejad in Saudi Arabia. Now, if we can, whenever we can, let's go ahead and put the picture of Bush and what's his name, King Abdullah, holding hands. Now, this just took place a couple of days ago, last week in Qatar, in Doha, Qatar, where the Iranian president, hand in hand with the Saudi king, and this is the Iranian president with the emir of Qatar, who is very much, you know, you can't separate what happened in Doha, Qatar from this intelligence report. You can't separate the two. Ahmadinejad won. Iran won big time. Israel lost. This did not come. And inviting the Iranian president to Doha, Qatar, to actually speak to this Gulf Cooperation Council, this took place because the United States have allowed it to take place. It is not that these Arab countries told because if they did not want Ahmadinejad in Qatar in this meeting, they would have told these people, don't invite him, and they will not invite him. So this was, actually a lot of people said, wow, the Arab countries now are defying American orders. No, they're not. No, they're not. The Americans knew, and they did not have any problem with it, because they knew what was coming, this intelligence estimate, it was coming out. With this intelligence estimate, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new world order. It will be. The past is the past. Now we will move forward. Unfortunately, the new American century is over. This is the end of the new American century. It did not last a century. It only lasted a couple of years because the neocons, Paul Wolfowitz, Douglas Feith, Richard Pearl, all these Zionist thugs in Washington who wrote the document that is called the New American Century and send us to war against a country that did not mean us any harm. We ended up killing 1 million people in Iraq. We ended up forcing about 4 million Iraqis to be refugees in their own countries and other countries. This is the end for the neocons. This is the new era. You will see China and Russia playing a much, much major role. We could have maintained our superiority. We could have been, and this truly could have been, the new American century if we maintained our policy. But we got dragged into the quagmire in Iraq because these people don't want the United States to be a superpower. The same people who took us to war, they're the same people who planned the fall of this country. But you know what? This is the time for the American people to stand up and say, this is it. Enough is enough. We know the game. We are not going to let you. We are going to be part of this game. We will be players. We are not going to be spectators anymore. This is the end of the new American century. Let's rebuild this country. Let's rebuild this country the way it should be. Let's go back to the Constitution. Let's help our politicians take this huge package off of their backs called AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, that is buying all our congressmen and women in Washington. It's time. You are exposed. We're not going to fight wars for you, Israel, anymore. Let's go to Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Dr. Tillawi.
Hello, sir.
Congratulations on an excellent presentation, but I have to take issue with you on a few small things.
All right, I'm hanging up. Go ahead.
I think that they intended to hit Iran, and I think that there's still a good chance that they will.
Okay. Let's take that one at a time. I think they intended probably, but I knew they could not even if they wanted to, because it will be a disaster for the United States. But since you are going to be hard-headed and still maintain that they were going to hit Iran, then okay, go ahead.
Well, first of all, the build-up that you're talking about to this. Now, I agree with you that Israel and the United States wanted to form this this alliance with the Arab nations against Iran. And there's no question about the fact that the easiest way to do this...
But you know what was the reason for them wanting to build this alliance?
Mm-hmm.
What was the reason? The main objective out of this whole thing was what? Normalize
relations with Israel and these Arab nations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I understand that. But the thing is this, Hesham. This alliance that you're talking about is not that much different than the alliance that existed between America and the Arab states in the first Gulf War, and it is not that much different than the alliance that exists today.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not true. The alliance between, you mean, Israel and the Arab states?
No, between the coalition, when I'm talking about with the way that the United States was able to get Saudi Arabia and Jordan.
Yes, but listen, Israel was not. You see, you have to understand things in the context of its objectives. The objective in the first coalition that you're talking about was to get the Arab states with the United States against Iraq so it will get out of Kuwait. That was the objective. That's number one objective. Now, number two objective, but they did not have a coalition this time with the Arab countries against Iran. When they went to hit Iran, they did not have a coalition. They forced some of these Arab countries so they can use their airspace and land bases, like Kuwait and Qatar. Saudi Arabia told them no. So there was no coalition between the United States and the Arab countries in destroying Iraq. There was one in the first Gulf War to get Iraq out of Kuwait. But this coalition to hit Iran is not, the objective it was not so we can destroy Iran or come with us with this war with Iran. If the war with Iran took place, which Israel wanted it to take place, so they can have double jeopardy. Number one, they destroy Iran. Number two, they normalize relations with the Arabs.
Well, I think that you're assuming too much as far as thinking that Israel wants normal relationships with these Arab countries.
No. Israel wants, oh yes, definitely. Israel wants normal relationships with the Arabs, but they don't want to give the Palestinians their right. And the Arabs are saying, no way we will have normal relationships with you unless you give the Palestinians their right. Oh no, Israel will have, if the Palestinians say, look, you can have it all, we are capitulating, then oh yeah, definitely. Israel wants to have normal relationships with the Arabs. There's no question about it.
Then explain Lebanon. Explain the run-up to what would have been a war with Syria if this thing had gone forward. There are plenty of, as many things that you can point to saying that Israel wants normalized relationship with these Arab countries. You can point to much more concrete and easily defined things that contradict that, such as the war in Lebanon and what Israel was planning to do against Syria.
Okay. Destroying the regime in Iran, you will take care of Lebanon. Are you there? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Destroying the regime in Iran will definitely take care of Lebanon and Syria. Syria, as a matter of fact, it's coming to this side more and more. This side of the fence. Lebanon will be taken care of. Excuse me. Lebanon will be taken care of if Iran is taken care of. But it failed. It failed. That plan, it failed. That's what happened. Now, there's two estimates out there. My theory is George Bush knew about this report, knew it was coming out. He wanted it to come out so he can have a way out of this Zionist stranglehold. Okay? The other theory is, which is out there, that the intelligence community very much found itself in a position that it was in before we attacked Iraq, and it did not want to be in the same position after we attack Iran, that the news will come out that, oh, you know what, they did not have any program for nuclear weapons. This is what everybody's talking about out there, that the intelligence community finally decided, look, I'm not going to get caught again with my pants down, so I'm going to come out and say this. But I don't buy that, because this will not happen in this administration, I guarantee you that. And he knew about it. He could have put a seal on it when he knew about it back in August, but he did not. George Bush.
Okay, but here's the thing, Hesham. If truly we were seeing a rebellion take place, and George Bush was telling Israel everything that you just said a few minutes ago, which is fight your own fight, leave us out of it, we've sacrificed
well,
too much, blah, blah,
really,
blah.
he didn't. Really, he did not. He did not say that. But I guarantee you, George Bush wanted a way out. I guarantee you that.
My point is this: if truly that were the case, then we would be seeing the George Bush equivalent of Monica Lewinsky on the TV now 24 hours a day. They would be blackmailing him. They would be putting the screws to him and doing everything that they could in order to rally him back into their camp with going forward with this attack. And the fact that they're not doing that tells me that
okay.
probably
but hold on. You see, okay, what did I say? I said George Bush really wanted this, but he did not do it. He's still fighting. He's still telling his masters that I am fighting this. He is acting like he's very upset, and he could be. That's my theory is he should not be upset. He should be very lucky that this happened. This is an opportunity for George Bush. If this was a rebellion, which I don't think it was, I think it was programmed. If it was not programmed by George Bush, it was programmed by those who are above him. Believe it or not, people think that George Bush is the highest power. No, he's not. He's the hired hand. Now,
I would agree with you on that, Hesham.
Now, it's the time. This is what America needed, because if we went to war again, if we hit Iran, this country, listen, look what's going on in the dollar game, the dollar war. We are losing that big time. We can't afford this war with Iran. We will be, if we attacked Iran, our soldiers in Iraq will be dead within 24 hours. They will be finished within 24 hours if we attacked Iran.
No, I disagree.
I guarantee you the Iranians have so many people. Think about the alliance that the Americans have, that the Iranians have inside Iran, inside Iraq. You know, you disagree with me, but I guarantee you, being someone from that area, and I know the demography in Iraq, if the Sunnis, who were the weakest party in Iraq, gave the Americans hell, where even one city in Iraq is not safe, even Baghdad, even 2 streets in Baghdad are not even safe. I guarantee you, if we have the Iranians in open war against us, it will take them 24 hours to destroy every American installation in Iraq, and we could not afford that, because that will be a disaster.
No, and here's why. Because we have got the 6th Fleet sitting off the coast of Iran. We don't have to do anything except send about 10,000 missiles into Iran. And then that will be the end of any invasion across the border from Iran into Iraq.
No, you see, you see, you misunderstood what I said. I did not say it was going to be an invasion from Iran to Iraq. They're already there. The militia's already there. They are already there. Think about how many suicide bombers will be hitting the Americans there. No. And the only war, we were not going to send troops to Iraq, to Iran. So it doesn't matter if our 6th Fleet is there. We can spend months destroying these installations there in Iran. And you think the world is going to let us destroy that country? You think Russia is going to sit there and let us destroy Iran, when the oil from Iran to Russia, the vital, very important item.
I agree with you.
Okay. So you think Russia is going to? You think Russia is going to sit there?
You pointed out before, which is the situation with Russia and China, number one, and the fact that Putin has already made it clear that any attack on Iran is going to be viewed as an attack on Russia. That's number one. Number two, the fact that Russia and China would not go along and cooperate in terms of sanctions. And number three, the fact that our dollar is dropping as a result of the world understanding that the United States is becoming increasingly politically unstable.
But wait,
I agree with you.
Wait.
The only disagreement that I have with you is this notion that we never intended to attack Iran, number one. And number two, that somebody is not making plans of restarting this thing as a result of what took place this week with the NIE.
Okay, no, I disagree with you totally. Now, you just said something that the dollar was going down because of what? What did you say?
Because of the political instability in the United States.
No.
People are pulling their money out of our system because they see that the ship of state is being steered by a madman.
That is very small part. That's very small part. That's not an economic war. We have an economic war going on right now that we're losing big time. We are in a war with China, Russia, Venezuela, Iran, all these countries that are changing from the dollar to the euro. That is a war. And that is very small part of it. It's, you know, the political situation and this that we are, that's small peanuts. That is not, like we say, the big bananas. No, it is not the big banana. This is the economic war that we are in the middle of, and it would have been a huge disaster if we did. So what we did, it was disaster for the United States, but we pulled it off because we apparently found out that we cannot do this one for Israel. This one was way too big.
All right,
Mark,
so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I have other people waiting on.
Okay, all right, go ahead. All right, excellent show, Dr. Tillawi.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Sure. Bye.
Peter, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to ask Mark Glenn.
Mark, he's not with us anymore.
Okay, but I want to ask you then, Dr. Well, look, Mark Glenn was just talking about when Bill Clinton was in this thing with Monica Lewinsky, but what he don't understand is the right wing had the whole media. They had Rush Limbaugh, you had Bill O'Reilly, you had Fox jumping on that day after day and day after day. Now, so far, the only people who are revealing what is really happening in the Bush administration is people like yourself. Tom Parker trying to reveal a little bit of it, but there is no radio channel like Clear Channel that have right-wing or that would have left-wing talk shows.
What they're going to say? What are they going to say? Freedom, what are they going to say? We are defeated? Because they were defeated with this, big time.
But Dr. Tillawi, like you're dealing with the NIE today and the live George Bush, Limbaugh never mentioned a thing about it. Sean Hannity today was just talking about Hillary Clinton. Bill O'Reilly's not saying anything. So they're trying to hide what George Bush is actually doing from the American people. And so many people listen to the radio now, especially when they're riding back and forth to work. All they have to listen to is right-wing radio that support George Bush, even though his popularity is under 30% now. So they are holding up a president who has the least popularity since Richard Nixon back in the Watergate days. So if the media would do their jobs, and if people like you had radio shows I mean, I'm talking about national radio shows, to let the people really know what was happening on a day-to-day basis, you know, keeping them in touch with the news, George Bush would have already been impeached. So why do people think that that Bush have that much support? His support primarily comes from talk radio. And thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, you know, unfortunately, we don't have a good system to keep people on while other people are talking. But I was going to put Mark on hold and then come back to him. But anyhow, this is the problem. This is the tragedy that we have in this country, that we don't have a media, a free press that will tell us what's going on. With this national intelligence estimate, forget it. We will not be attacking Iran. Now, I might be proven wrong, but I have always maintained, even when everybody in this country, even commentators on both sides, they were saying we are going to attack Iran. I just thought it was national suicide if we attack Iran. I could not fathom the idea that we will attack Iran, because it would have been a suicide. And I just could not see us doing it. And I always maintained that we are doing this as part of the game. Now, if we would have attacked Iran, it would have been a disaster, but I guarantee you that Israel would have loved to see that, because the only way Israel is going to get in with the Arab countries is if Israel play a part in attacking Iran. But you see, they wanted to get Iran to be an enemy of the Arab states, and Iran and the Arab states were very smart, even though most of the Arab states they go along with what George Bush and what the American administration want. But apparently somebody convinced the American administration, look, you've got to get out of this one. You've got to get out of this one. This is a trap. This is a death trap. And it would have been. It would have been. Russia was not going to stand if we attack Iran, that means disruption of oil, vital to Russia and China. They're not going to do it. Now, Russia and China are saying, you know what? Now, if some of you are following what's going on, there are sanctions that we forced on the United Nations to place on Iran, and the Security Council went along with us. There was first phase of sanctions, second phase of sanctions, and we were able to get the Russians and the Chinese to go along with us, but it was not really that big of a deal. You know, we said, okay, American companies don't do business with Iran, big deal. But there were this week or next week we were supposed to issue a statement or issue another resolution from the United Nations Security Council for the third phase of the sanctions. And very much the Chinese and the Russians told us, forget it. We're not going with you. Now we are questioning the first phase and the second phase. So what's going to happen next is very much Iran is going to be a normal player. It is not the bad person that we thought it was, because our own intelligence service is saying they don't have a weapons program. The game failed. The game did not work. The game is over for Israel. Let's get on with it. I'll just go. We don't have much time, but I'll go to caller. Go ahead. Line 1, go ahead.
Yes, I was wanting your opinion as to which Arab states do you feel is least controlled or influenced by the United States? I mean,
the least?
I'm sorry?
Did you say which one is the least controlled?
Yes, the least controlled.
Oh boy, you know, it's really it's kind of hard to to figure out which one, but I would say probably Syria had shown some resistance to American pressure. I would say probably Sudan also. Yemen, yeah, maybe, but I think Yemen is getting into the other camp now. So I would say probably, if I would say, now of course Lebanon, but Lebanon, it depends on which one you're talking about in Lebanon. You know, are we talking about Hezbollah? Yes, of course. But if we're talking about the Hariri coalition, then it's not. But I mean, what's the purpose of this question? I'm just curious.
I was just wondering why the majority of the Arab states are not doing more in support of the Palestinians.
Yeah.
To me, I mean,
go ahead.
That is their brothers.
Yes.
Why are they not standing up and backing their brothers and supporting them against the United States and Israel?
Okay, great question. The reason is because these Arab states were puppets to start with. You have to go back to how did they become states. These states became states after the First World War, and some of them even did not get their independence, like Qatar, for instance, did not even become an independent state until like 1972, I believe, or 1970, I think. So these states became states because a colonial power had put them there to start with. England and France put all these regimes in there. That's why, because these regimes are dependent 100% on colonial powers. They can't stand up even if they wanted to. The only reason these regimes can stay in power is if they continue doing what they're doing, which is basically be the policeman for the United States and other colonial powers in the world.
But, I mean, don't you think it's about time for them to stand on their own 2 feet? I mean...
Oh, of course, and they can. Look what happened with Iran. Iran stood its ground. Iran faced the United States. It faced the whole world and won. Definitely, the Arabs, what they should have done is stood up before we attacked Iraq and said, guess what, United States, you are not going to attack Iraq. If they would have done that, Iraq would still be Iraq. But they're cowards. All of these regimes, they are cowards. It is time for, we talk about democracy, let the people in the Middle East decide what to do with these regimes, because we are only putting democracy on people. What about democracy in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, in Jordan? What about all these, all our friends? But we're not asking them to do democracy. I'm completely out of time, but I really do appreciate your call. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we only have about half a minute left. I hope you understood some of of what we talked about tonight, because it was, you probably did not know what a national intelligence estimate is. Go look it up. Very important. Israel, you lose. America won. Good night, everyone. Go do the right thing.
You may have heard that at one point, the Bayou Vermilion was